Eyes up, Guardians. Destiny 2 is here, and to celebrate, there's a little bit of a cross-promotion going on with Rockstar Energy. Yes, we've been sent a bunch of energy drinks, which sadly we can't go just handing out because there's a whole, we can't tell how old people are via the post. It's a little bit tricky. So what we're going to do instead, we're going to take the codes that come with these cans and give them out on the show. Now, what do these codes entitle you to? Loads of cool things that you can use in the game, and also enters you into prize draws so you can win cool things like Destiny 2 themed motorcycles, PlayStation 4 Pro systems, and special edition games. So what I'm going to do is read you out 2 of these codes at the start of the show here, 2 during the show, and then 2 at the end of the show. So make sure you hang around at the end. And if you are lucky enough to grab one of these codes, go over to destiny2.rockstarenergy.com, redeem your code, enter your details, and claim your goodies. So without further ado, the first code is W6L8M8F994WN, and the second code would be JPKNH483J7NN. Now it's first come first serve, so be sure to get that quickly over to destiny2.rockstarenergy.com. If by some poor reason you're not able to get yourself a code, well, we will read out more in the following weeks to come, but also you could always just go to the store and buy yourself a can of Rockstar Energy. Enjoy your Destiny 2 and enjoy the show.
If the British Empire and its Commonwealth last for 1,000 years, men will still say this was their finest hour.
We stand for Queen, country, and video games. BRB UK. Worse teeth, better accents.
Hello, and indeed ahoy hoy, and
hi.
Welcome once again. Hi Tim, I'm Dan, that's Tim, he can't keep quiet. This is episode 260 of BRB UK. I can't believe we're only 40 away from 300, that's terrifying.
Wow.
Sparta!
And that's Coleman, say hello Coleman.
Hi!
How are you doing, sir?
So tired.
Destiny 2 and night shifts?
Mostly just night shifts.
Yeah, I hate night shifts.
I've not long been up.
Yeah, no, night. Have you ever done night shifts, Tim?
No.
Extra life doesn't count.
I did evening shifts type thing.
Oh, la-di-da.
Well, no, I worked in a restaurant and it was like till, 1 o'clock in the morning type thing. Not quite working all night.
Oh, yeah, those are fun.
Yeah.
In some ways, I think twice, because I used to have a lovely shift at A&E, which was 6 in the evening till 4 in the morning, which is worse than a night shift in my personal view.
I actually got to the point where people were betting on how late I would be for a morning shift.
Well, we do that anyway, Tim, but even when it's like 11 o'clock in the morning, you're still 20 minutes late.
I gave up doing morning shifts and did what they call a swing shift, which was like a 3/4 shift that went like most of the day.
Some would say even when Tim's here, he's not all there. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
Hey! Anyway, Coleman, because you're doing night shifts, that means you've got to run away and do a job after this. So, you want us to crack on, right?
I do. I would really like us to crack on.
Warner Brothers!
Warner Brothers!
They're the brothers you warned about because they don't give money to things.
Both of them.
Yes. Yes, they're like the Mario brothers.
Dennis Warner and Derek Warner.
Clive.
No.
Clive. I thought it was Clive Warner, wasn't it?
No. DWB.
Dwub.
Yeah, Dwubs. They're the Dwubs. Dwubs.
Dwub step is what happens when they go for a walk.
They sound like a gang that's got a protection racket going on in 1920s Chicago.
Yeah, you're going to buy this DLC, you see?
Hey, I got some ideas. Hey, you know those motion pictures we made so much money from? Anyway. So this is hot on the heels of obviously the very sad news that got out and about that one of the devs of the upcoming Mordor game passed away a little while ago, and in their honour, Monolith developed, well, basically a charity DLC in commemoration of that guy. He's a guy called Michael Forgy.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a really nice thing for the developer to do, no? Like,
Yeah,
I have to say, before we get into
the
the nasty part of it, that bit in itself, the idea of it, nice thing to do.
Yes.
And kind of made an Orc Slayer character who basically has a likeness of Michael Forgy. So, but that was great, and as Tim rightly says, that's a fantastic thing, but all was not well, Coleman.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
I know about this.
So tell me why all was not well, Coleman.
So the idea was this DLC pack, it was going to be a charity DLC pack. It's been done in games before. I remember the love track for the Beatles Rockstar game being one in particular. So the DLC was going to be sold at £3.99. A portion of that would be going to the family of Michael Forgy. I can't work out the conversion rate on the top of my head right now, but $4.99 in dollars for the DLC, $3.50 of that would go to the family. Yeah. And since then, I believe Total Biscuit was the first one to work this one out, but he said that it's only it's available worldwide for the DLC is, but the charity money is only taken for 48 US states and nowhere outside of the US. So this has obviously gone off to other different reporters and YouTubers and what have you have all been reporting that, hey, Warner Brother appear to be making money off of some poor man's death. And that's kind of how it's been played. Until, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but Warner Brothers essentially came out and said that they're not making any money off of this. They haven't explained where that extra bit of money is going, or...
I mean, just to jump into the defense of Warner Brothers here, that might have something to do with charity law.
Yes, and it is very complicated in America. Basically.
Which is very complicated, and it is very difficult to funnel money raised outside of a country into a charitable organisation within that country. So what I'm hoping Warner Brothers are going to do is that they're going to say, okay, what we're going to have to review the sales every quarter for this, and the requisite percentage, once it's returned to our US offices, we will then donate that straight to charity, which is kind of what I'm hoping what the outcome's going to be here.
Yeah, I mean, one way that was suggested to me the couple of days ago that this could have gone is they could have sold the DLC, worked out just how much money they had made off the DLC, and then taken that as a donation themselves to put away. But there might be some shady goings on. There might not be some shady goings on. Warner Brothers certainly don't seem to think so.
We honestly don't know.
We don't know, so it's pointless us carrying on with this. But if you feel a bit iffy about this and you want to give money to the Forgy family, you can do so directly because they have a YouCaring page. Mm-hmm, so if you go to youcaring.com/Michael-Forgy-479-259, I will put a link in the show notes if you... don't want to work that one, you can go there and donate directly with 100% of proceeds going straight to the family.
And that is Forgy, spelt Forgey.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. If you're worried about where your money may go, like I said, this may all come out in the wash. I mean, I feel a bit sorry for Mike Forgy's family that it's kind of been turned into this a little bit, to be fair.
Yeah. Kind of drags
As I said, it was a nice idea, and I don't think that the developers necessarily, and I'm not saying they should have thought this through a bit more or whatever, but it's something where it's, a nice idea and the practicalities of putting that nice idea into practice type thing. The other thing I'll say in defense of Warner Brothers, is generally there are ways around this, but there's also no point spending more money to police the situation than and taking money out of that kind of pot of money that you're making from it in just doing busy work and paperwork to make it work properly. It's probably they're probably better off just, as you say, coming up with some scheme where they go, all right, that's money that we couldn't attribute to these couple of states and stuff because it is very complicated in America, and we'll find a way of reinvesting that money in good causes, kind of thing,
I mean, that's the thing. They've got to funnel money back to the States, and once it's funneled back to the States, then they can do that with it. And I hope they do that with it. But, remember, if you want to give to Mike Forgy's family directly, www.youcaring.com/Michael-Forgy-479-259. If you want to be absolutely sure your money is going where it should be.
That set aside, and as I said, good thing and good stuff and all that side, I do quite like the idea of someone in Warner Brothers going with our earlier analogy of just, Activision trying to muscle in our business. We'll show them how it's done in this town.
Yes, that is all unsubstantiated rumour. And yes, I can't say any more. I think
the opinions of Timothy Kenneth James Hibbs are not reflective of that of the BigRedBarel UK podcast.
The hell, just throw
no, and they're certainly not reflective of mine or Coleman's. Basically, Tim's dug himself a big hole and he's gonna just keep on digging. Anyway, Talking of funny goings on in 1930 Chicago, L.A. Noire.
I love L.A. Noire.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. I thought I might get some abuse from you two from going on about how much I love this game.
Oh, I haven't come on to the VR bit. L.A. Noire, I think, was a criminally underappreciated game in its time. I think it was. I think problem is a lot since it had Rockstar attached to it. A lot of people are expecting it to be
more Grand Theft Auto.
Grand Theft 50s, yeah.
But this is the thing. This is almost at the height of me being bored of open world games. This came out and went, oh no, okay, this is what I want from an open world game kind of thing. I want a fully realized universe that I couldn't actually go and visit, and this is something, you know. They did so much to kind of recreate the actual kind of layout of the city and all that type of stuff, and I have to say it is kind of with a pinch of regret that there does seem to have been some
totally mixed metaphors, Bam.
Well, yeah, no, just like the fact that a lot of their
sorry, it was my pinch of regret.
the thing just. They had a lot of problems with people saying that they did not treat their employees.
Yeah,
very well,
Team Bondi at the time came out and said that they were essentially slaves to Rockstar, and they had poor working conditions, they weren't paid correctly, and then they ended up getting shut down.
Yeah, and since then, you know, that's not the first hint of smoke around the Rockstar fire with regards to that.
Well, no. Let's start this back. All those complaints were not against Rockstar, and okay, Rockstar may have been the parent company or the people that ended up publishing this game, but I don't think they were necessarily in charge of the studios the whole time it was there. And I'm not giving them an excuse, but I don't actually think they even owned the studio to start with. And then I don't think they necessarily were aware of all the circumstances in the run-up because they were literally on the other side of the world to them. So I don't think
maybe
you can...
edit that out then, Colin, so we
no,
don't need to.
I'm just saying I don't think you can lay the blame at Rockstar.
Allegedly.
I think it was mainly Bondi Games, basically. The complaints were centred around it.
Can't sue us if you don't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of did come out very much under a cloud, L.A. Noire, but at its very core, and I'm not saying that not treating your employees right is okay if the game's all right. That's totally not what we're saying.
Yeah.
But, you know, clearly a lot of people put a lot of hard work into
and
L.A.
I appreciate
Noire.
it.
And I honestly... yeah, and, I mean, it was a very different pace of game than people were used to coming out of kind of Rockstar as a publisher, and I think it did some great things with storytelling. And I mean, the kind of the big tech around it that they announced was the kind of the facial motion capture, which sometimes went a bit uncanny valley, I'm not gonna lie, but it was all about, you know, using the facial expressions to kind of see if they've got a tell or not. Is this person lying to you under interrogation or not? The
problem with that is because they kind of mixed. So there's the main characters from Mad Men, I remember, and then there's characters from like Heroes, and one of the characters, I believe, is the king from the Return of the King, Lord of the Rings movie. So you've got some pretty decent caliber actors in there, but also you've got a lot of kind of fodder actors, we'll say, lower actors. And when in a game where you're meant to read their emotions and facial tics and things to work out if they're lying or telling the truth, some of them were so bad that it's like, oh, they're definitely lying because they look really shifty. No, that's just how they act.
Yeah, but see, I always managed to kind of sweep that under the rug and just say, well, okay, but that's how life is with some people, kind of thing. Some people do look a bit shifty, and so you don't trust them. And I don't know, like that. I think, yeah, a lot of the criticisms.
So where were you at 2:37 p.m. on Saturday?
A lot of the criticisms that people had for the game, I thought, were a little unfair and a little harsh. But I also think, as you say, Dan, it had some excellent storytelling stuff. The actors and stuff, like being recognisable and stuff, was interesting in itself. But I actually think some of my favourite things and some of the most memorable things from the game were the storytelling elements. The fact that it wasn't afraid to go for some very adult themes and very adult subject matter. And then deal with things that were actually happening to the main protagonist and stuff like that. And also, I still don't want to spoil it, but I don't think we even necessarily mentioned it anywhere near the time, but the ending of that game is one of my most memorable endings to a game, kind of thing. And they did some brave things that you wouldn't normally do in that sort of field, basically. And I think this game didn't get that highly praised for, like, I'd say this was just an interesting ending of what I've heard was good about the ending to Red Dead Redemption, for instance. See, and that gets heavily lauded, and you don't hear L.A. Noire spoken about in the same kind of breath, sort of.
But there's the ending of Red Dead, then there's the ending of Red Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember, because I remember LA Noire at the time, a lot of people kind of went, oh, this is actually really good. And then a little bit later, it was kind of a little bit panned more. And then when it got to the end, a lot of people didn't agree with the ending, but I enjoyed the whole experience. I was actually hoping this would come to backwards compatibility a while ago. And then when Red Dead Redemption came to backwards compatibility, and I tried that, and the way it looked on the, on new TVs and stuff, I was like, oh, I don't want the backwards compatibility. I want a HD version with improved lighting and things. So I'm glad they're doing this with LA Noire, because it's now coming to the Switch, PS4, and Xbox One.
Yay!
It's the game proper as it was on the Switch, with a bunch of new features for the HD rumble and all that kind of thing. But then the PS4, Xbox One version, that's going to have improved visuals and 4K capabilities on PS4 Pro and Xbox One. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this.
But that's not all.
But wait, there's
Gets
more.
even better.
That's not all. Hey, I hear people are loving the binocular vision in this town, these day and age. So, Tim, you're going to be able to get your VR on, apparently, because there's going to be an addendum to it called LA Noire, the VR case files. Super duper points for originality there. Though this is just going to be for the HTC Vive at the moment.
Well, that's all they've announced so far. Obviously, there is the PS4 version, so I'm really hoping for a PSVR thing. I don't know if there's some sort of exclusivity period or they're just working on porting it afterwards. But yeah, cross fingers that this comes to PSVR, because I am really, that sounds really good. It does sound like, it's not the whole game, obviously. It's just certain cases. So I don't know whether they're adapting individual cases from the overall story.
That seems to be what they're doing. They're taking 7 of the original cases and then rebuilding them for virtual reality. So I'm assuming you're going to have kind of that teleport mechanic. You're going to pick up items, and one of my favorite things in that game was just pick up an item that had no bearing and just for ages keep turning it round. Like, I found a cigarette. Oh, I keep turning the cigarette round, and because I can't figure out how to put it down. And I remember for ages, because I was playing, because I had a copy and then my housemate was going to use it after I finished it, so he was watching me play for a while. He's like, will you hurry up, progress, I want to play this game. And I just pick up a coin and go, I wonder how many hours I can do this and annoy you.
Also, from memory, the DLC for that game is really good as well.
The Reefer Madness DLC.
Yes.
Well, that one, and there was another one as well, I think. Or wasn't there 2 or 3 extra cases in the end, I think?
I think there was just 2. One was a pack-in with it, if you pre-ordered it, I seem to remember.
Yeah, but I really like that game. I'd quite happily dive back in.
Underappreciated game, well worth a look. Of course, depending what the price is. If they're going to charge you 60 quid for it, I'm not 100% sure. But
I don't know. Still might pay that.
Don't tell them that, Coleman.
Yeah, would you?
I might. Especially if I get the VR portion on PSVR as part of that, I could happily pay that. Yeah.
Yeah, but that is in no way confirmed, Tim. All we know is come to Vive.
And depends on the limitations of the PSVR as well, compared to the HTC Vive.
Stare at people's faces. In VR.
It's a little more complicated than that, Tim, and it does trouble people when you do that in real life, so stop it. Coleman.
Yes.
Avengers. You like
Avengers.
them.
I love the Avengers.
I
love
the
Marvel.
Avengers.
I love DC. I love anything comic related.
You certainly
it's
do.
It's going to be a good time.
You certainly do. And that explains at least 4 of your restraining orders, doesn't it?
You love Iron Fist.
I actually do like Iron Fist.
There we go.
I know you said you liked. You said you
No,
liked
he
it all.
loves
Now
Iron
you're
Fist.
dipping down into like. That's a level below love.
I'm one of those weird people that actually likes the actor that played him. I didn't see a problem with that. It was the writing was a bit of an issue.
I don't like
Anyway, apparently, new details have emerged from Crystal Dynamics' Avengers title coming up.
Yeah, so back in January, Square Enix announced a partnership with Marvel. They're going to be making new titles for the Avengers, for Marvel properties, and the first one being an unannounced Avengers title, which I think...
it's my favourite!
Yeah, which I think they called the Avengers Project, the
that is
working
good
title. Which,
like
that worked. I want you to join the Avengers Project.
No one's going to work out that's an Avengers game.
So we saw a quick snippet trailer, pre-rendered. It kind of went over, I believe, broken versions of Iron Man's mask and Captain America's shield and Thor's hammer and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, very, very similar to the Age of Ultron movie that came out a few years ago. And so the first details, they're not official. The first details have been released by a NeoGAF user called Noire, who basically found a bunch of job postings for Square Enix, and has linked those to the Avengers project. So I've gone through all the job postings, but the bullet points that I can make out that the game will feature social shared online play and, at least in combat sections, resemble a third-person cover-based action-adventure game.
See, that phrase doesn't...
Resemble, but are not in fact.
That phrase doesn't necessarily, ring very well with gamers. I think the cover-based action thing particularly doesn't necessarily... Like, a lot of people were turned off by that phrase, I think. But I don't know about you, like, that covers some of my favourite games of the last few generations, I think, possibly.
Don't you want to be the Hulk ducking behind a knee-high wall?
That does seem a bit stupid, but as long as he can duck behind it and then throw it at someone, I'm fine with that kind of thing. I mean, when you look at, like, some of the games that have been third-person cover-based action adventure game, like things that could be described as that covers the Uncharted series, which, you know, I'm more than happy with. Obviously, Gears of War is a kind of the classic cover-based type thing, but then also you get, you know, silly, more epic things like Vanquish and stuff like that as well, which is kind of a cover-based shooter, even though you're screaming around on your knees half the time, basically. It's a phrase that can cover quite a lot, though, basically, is what I'm trying to say there. That it doesn't necessarily mean that, as you say, Hulk is going to be cowering behind a low wall kind of idea. You can just get people that would do that, and then other characters that wouldn't, like Hulk, basically.
I just want a decent Iron Man game. I want to be Iron Man. I want to shoot pulsar
I
razor.
know you want to be
or
Iron
Spider-Man.
Man. You can do some ironing. That's as close you're going to get for the moment, I think, mate.
I doubt we're going to get Spider-Man in it, though, because the whole Spider-Man...
You've got Marvel Heroes Omega with all the Spider-Mans and Iron
Yes,
Mans
and that's fun, and I enjoy it for the social interactions
game,
mostly. But yeah, I want a game. I don't want like an MMO or MOBA or anything like that. I want like a proper. I can sit down and play. I want a Destiny.
That does seem something that we've been lacking in not only this generation but the last generation of consoles. There didn't seem to be many of those type of games.
Yeah, well, that's because the kind of the games that Marvel had worked out for movies and things. So there was the big one with Activision, Beanox for and Neversoft for Spider-Man, which kind of they went down and down in quality as the games progressed. But then the main Avengers ones, I believe there was a Captain America game. I remember 100%ing that overnight, which wasn't great.
The 3DS one. The 3DS one wasn't terrible.
That was just a mobile port put on the 3DS.
Yeah.
And then there was two really, really bad Iron Man games that tied into the movies. And then after that point, I think when Thor came out, they went, we're not going to do this any... Oh, no, they did make a Thor game as well, actually.
Yeah, I know. I've just remembered I played an Amazing Spider-Man game on the 3DS, and it's one of the only games that I couldn't bring myself to finish so that I could do the review, because it was so terrible.
The main version of the main console game as well wasn't that great.
Yeah,
but so I think they were making an Avengers game, which, if I remember correctly, was this 4-player co-op team-up, kind of reminiscent of Left 4 Dead first-person game, and it got cancelled into development after the poor reviews on the previous games,
right.
And poor sales as well. And at that point, they basically went, okay, any Marvel games we're going to make mobile games, because they're cheaper to produce, you can sell microtransactions and all these other advantages to it, and AAA, well, not even AAA, mid-tier games kind of disappeared from Marvel for a while.
But to be fair, like, I might blame myself a little bit for this, only a tiny bit, because I doubt that many people actually read the article that I produced. But I produced an article for Sarcastic Gamer that was basically, it's time to make decent movie games, basically. And it was making the point that you cannot make a decent game alongside a movie and expect it to come out, because the time it takes to produce a movie from start to finish, and at the point in time in the cycle with making that movie that they come around to talking to people about making the game, it doesn't provide the studio enough time to make a game, and that's why we ended up with a truckload of rubbish games that, because they were produced in like 7 to 8 months.
Yeah, and also, I mean, let's not forget the fact that they're very different storytelling mediums, video games and movies, and what works in a movie doesn't necessarily work very well in a video game, especially if contractually the studio producing the game have to be slavishly accurate to what goes on in the movie.
Well, you'd end up with these things, even when it wasn't slavishly accurate, you'd end up with these weird kind of like quasi things that was kind of based on the film, but we've also just inserted these other villains as well, so the game lasts long enough type thing. You know what I mean?
That.
And it was always a bit of a weird situation. And I made the point then that if you're gonna produce a game in that time frame, you need to produce go to a level where you can produce a decent game in that time, mobile. Or you need to produce it not in time for the cinema release, but in time for the DVD release, so it gives you that much longer to produce.
Well, take Rare's GoldenEye for the N64, a game that's now to this day aged horribly, but at the time it was very well received. Loads of people played, like everyone played four-player death matches, and it did really well. But that game came out closer to the next James Bond film than it did GoldenEye. It was held back horribly for ages.
And that was always part of the issue. And but the other approach and the preferred method of doing it is, as you say, it's a different medium. Treat it to it, as a completely different medium, and use it to its best. Get the best out of it you can, basically, and just
Well, yeah, I mean, I think kind of video games are kind of the structure of games is kind of lends itself more to actually exploring characters' backstories and kind of stuff that was perhaps just hinted at in the movie, which would also mean it following on from the movie might actually make a lot of sense.
No, that's been done as well before. I mean, I think Amazing Spider-Man follows on from the first Amazing Spider-Man movie, but it wasn't a great game.
Amazing Spider-Man 2, though.
I have a question.
That was awful as well. Yes?
I have a question. We bandy around the term AAA games, left, right, and centre. What is an AA game? Or an A game?
That's an AA game.
Bring
is when
your A game, Dan. You've heard that before.
That's a driving simulator where you're in a van and you've got to pick up other broken down cars on the motorway.
Or you try and negotiate the tricky waters of kind of getting back on the wagon, I suppose.
I like that one.
That's what it could be.
An A game, that's just a really good game.
Yeah, A game.
Right, okay. So why bother with AAA then?
Because that's better than A.
Because it costs more money for each A that you introduce, Dan. That's why.
Right, so what about...
That's a really expensive game. That's why you're screaming.
That's Resident Evil 7.
That's a good point. Excellent. But listen, quick bits and bobs, talking of Tim's desire for quick little games, and I'm actually really excited about this first one, Coleman.
So's Tim.
Excellent, because this is a game back in the day I loved, and I've kind of bemoaned its lack of, existing on modern mobile devices, and that's Puzzle Fighter.
I was equally keen. That's kind of why I asked for this to be put on the agenda. Dug into it a little bit more, and I'm not as sure as I was.
Okay.
Right. Why?
I'll hold that back for a second. Maybe we'll go for the it's coming to iOS and Android.
Yep.
Okay. That in itself isn't inherently bad, but it does give me the big worry that it's going to have,
looks like you ran out. Yeah, looks like you ran out of turns to play puzzles.
Yeah,
better wait 2 hours, or alternatively,
up the wazoo.
Oh, Ryu's really tired. Can you buy some more buckets so he can pretend he's standing under a waterfall as you tip water over his head?
And it's just, I can see how they can apply that formula to this. I just wish they wouldn't. I'd pay way more money to just give me the game and take all that crap out of it type of thing.
But then they make way less money out of you, so they're not going to do that.
No, they wouldn't make less money out of me. They'd make less money out of whales in general. And I just don't agree with that as a business principle. Anyway, but
I know people that are borderline addicted to Marvel Puzzle Quest to this day. So I could see this being terrible for them.
Yeah, this is bad. Right. The other thing that gives me a bit of cause for alarm, I don't know if you've seen the artwork.
They're kind of it's like the super polished look of the current Marvel Capcom crossover game, but they've kind of got big heads, sort of chibi like.
I don't mind that.
Would you say a massive heat?
I don't mind that because that was what the original and was it Super Puzzle Fighter 2 is the one that I kind of played the most, horrible. Basically. Yeah, and there's something about that artwork that really I find majorly off-putting. I don't know why. It's not significantly different to the original artwork, but there's something I really don't like about it.
Well, because the original artwork was chibi characters again, but it was kind of like everyone was in the same kind of body frame. They're kind of like pop figures, really, more than chibi characters. And this time it's so Chun-Li's got a super skinny body, but a massive head. And
a massive head!
But, so it's a style that will kind of work with the likes of Mega Man or Hagar or someone, but then certain characters are going to make them look really weird, like Morrigan.
I wonder if
Morrigan and Chun-Li don't come off well.
Just thinking about that though, I wonder if like the slightly more elongated look with the bigger head is a necessity of the platform they're coming out on. Like, as in, they just don't have the screen real estate for smaller, chubbier characters type thing.
I think they should have literally
on a mobile screen compared to a TV screen.
They should have, because this has been a trend for a little while now, but make essentially what looks like the original game with the new characters and things. It's worked successful for a lot of mobile games remakes in the past, and I think that could work here, but hey, they've gone the way they've gone.
Absolutely, because I think it got a release. Did it get a release on the DS or 3DS?
I have no idea.
I don't think so. I don't think we've seen anything in the... Well, I don't know. We definitely haven't seen anything. I don't think there's been a sequel to Super Puzzle Fighter 2. It may have come out on other platforms, but I don't think, in subsequent later generations and things. But I don't think there's been a new game since it was, PS2 era, I think, possibly.
I never used to play them.
What?
I never used to play them.
Okay. But I used to really like these games. It's something I'm into. The one I've been mentioning, Super Puzzle Fighter 2, was just Street Fighter characters with a couple of Dark Stalkers crossed over and stuff like that, I think, from memory. But this one does seem to be a bit more all-inclusive of Capcom stuff. They've got Mega Man, they've got Frank West from Dead Rising, Mike Hager from Final Fight, Jill from Resident Evil. So, they do seem to be, expanding beyond the Street Fighter universe, which I guess is good. I don't mind that so much. But a lot of these characters are characters I'm more familiar with them from Marvel vs. Capcom than I am from their original games, basically. So it's a bit odd, but still, yeah, I'm okay with that. I don't mind that things. There's just the two other things that are really giving me cause for concern. Yep.
So in this lineup, there's also Frank West, and you know what Frank West comes from?
Dead Rising.
What's that coming over the hill? Is it a Segway?
Yeah. So Dead Rising 4 came out on the Xbox One. It then came to Steam, and now it's coming to PS4. But it's coming to PS4 in a special package, much like the Tomb Raider re-release on PS4.
Right.
It's named Frank's Big Package because it's referencing his penis.
I heard that has a bit of Dead Rising all of its own as well.
So that's releasing on the 5th of November this year, and it comes with all the add-on content, stocking stuff, a holiday pack, Frank Rising, and Super Ultra Dead Rising 4 Mini Golf. That'll all be on the game. I think there's some exclusive stuff as well that's first coming to PS4 and then will be released on PC and Xbox One, which is a bit weird considering it was an exclusive.
But yeah, do you think that's developers going, right, we kind of backed the wrong horse here. We're really sorry. If you'd just like to buy our game, please, because apparently there's 60 million of you and we'd quite like to sell it to us.
I think they
ironic, because that's technically flogging a dead horse, which is really on message with the zombie thing.
I think they just looked at the Tomb Raider re-release for PS4 and went, oh, that's a good idea, we should do that.
Yeah. How many millions more of those are there? All right, okay, we'll do that then. That's great, thanks.
Well, I assume it's coming now because they had an exclusivity period with Xbox that they'd promised them, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and I believe it came out...
Yeah, almost certainly.
So almost a year later, because I think it came out in December, because I remember everyone playing that for Christmas, because it's a Christmas-themed game, so
right.
Perfect time for it to come out, really. But yeah, I may pick that up if the price is right.
It's the Die Hard of video games.
With
100% less Alan Rickman, sadly.
No. My grandpa's hammer, what a saving.
Anyway,
what is that? Alan Rickman with indigestion.
It was Alan Rickman with tonsillitis and indigestion.
Hello, Alan Rickman. This is Alan Rickman. Reminding you to take the chops out of the freezer and leave them on the on the training board so they may thaw out correctly overnight. That's my Alan Rickman.
Okay.
Not much better than mine, I'm not going to lie.
No. I can do it if I've got some phlegm in my throat.
Yeah, talking of really weird stuff.
Sweary.
Or Hidetaka Suhiro, as he's otherwise known. Yeah, that's right.
Sweary. We love Sweary.
So he showed his latest game at PAX West. It's called The Good Life, and it's set in an English village, which
Good
looks
life,
lovely,
good
and
life,
it's
good life,
there's
good life
there's some kind of
good
shizzle
life.
going down, and
Good life.
stuff needs investigating.
I assume that's not based on the 70s sitcom.
No,
Didn't even think of that.
no. It's not, sadly.
Oh, Margot, the pig's pregnant.
Oh, I really want him to make a 70s sitcom, English-based 70s sitcom now. Anyway, but there you go.
Well, you're not going to get that with this, because, of course, everyone knows, right? A standard part of beautiful English villages is that everyone turns into cats at midnight.
Yes. That
It's
is
one
a
of
big
those
problem.
villages, right?
Yeah.
That is a big problem. Whenever I go out to see Kev, I've got to get out before midnight.
You have. Don't feed him after midnight.
Don't
That's
feed
for
him after
entirely
midnight.
different reasons involving flatulence, but, so it's part murder mystery, part real-life simulation RPG, part why the heck is everyone a cat simulation.
Right.
It's part of the course for swearing, really.
Yeah, to be fair.
So, the first game, Deadly Premonition, that was essentially
Yeah.
Twin Peaks, and then he made D4, I think, and that
Yes.
was
Yeah.
the Connect.
Dark Dreams Don't Die.
Yeah, with some really bad dialogue in that game, but
But
the game itself
really
was
funny,
really
though.
funny and fun.
Yeah. I think that was my favourite Connect game. I'm trying to think of a Connect game that I
There
like
weren't
more than
many,
that.
to be fair.
No,
I
there
know
were-
it's a short list.
No, there
but-
weren't many good ones.
Yeah, but probably my favourite, I think.
It was the least crap.
And that was
It
a
was the
kind
least
of
crap Connect game.
Definitely better than the Star Wars dancing game, but you know.
that was kind of a detective game with superpower, like mind powers.
Yeah.
Again, kind of Deadly Premonition-esque.
Well,
So this time he just went, cats, gonna make cats.
Yeah, I never played Deadly Premonition, but I watched my ex play it, and yeah, that's a weird game.
That's fun, I love that game.
Yeah, entertainingly weird, but definitely weird.
Good.
Yes.
Excellent.
But anyway,
Cool
The
story.
Good Life.
Mm-hmm.
Good life. Good life.
No, Coleman,
Margot?
no. You've got to go to work in not very long. We're not going down this particular avenue.
I've noticed. So Swery took to the stage at PAX and announced that The Good Life will be partially funded by a FIG campaign. So you're going to get some crowdfunding in there. And FIG campaigns are usually very, very good the way they deal with them. You have the option of backing normally. You have the option of backing with a much larger amount where you're officially a shareholder in the game, which I believe they've changed all the stipulations for that because you had to go through a lot of legal loopholes to
Yeah.
actually do that in the first place.
Oh, they have actually updated that, have they? 'Cause
Yeah,
that was
I
my main
believe
problem.
it was this
with
year they've updated those
You
terms.
basically had to be a pre-approved millionaire to possibly get on their system, basically.
That's generally how investing works. Are you rich? Would you like to be richer? Fantastic. Excellent. Come this way, sir. What's that? You don't have as much money as you'd like? Yeah, off. Is generally how investing works, in my
Yes.
experience.
It's good though.
It's good.
Mhm.
And stuff.
I want cat RPG game,
You want cat RPGs.
and
good.
we love Swery.
Yeah, well, yes. Hi,
It does
Swery,
sound
yeah.
crazy in
He's a
the
big
best
fan of
of
the show.
ways. I'm a fan of his craziness, put it that way.
Jolly good. But Coleman, that's not the only thing you're excited about. While me and Tim can pop to the loo for a couple of minutes as you read this out.
Well, this one's going to be quicker than last
Men in
week.
pants.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because it's only one section instead of two bolted together.
Ooh. So the final roster has been revealed for WWE 2K18.
Yeah,
Can you contain your excitement?
I can. What about you?
I can.
I can.
Yeah.
I'm always amazed each year whenever they bring out these games and they do these hype packages and the roster reveals in parts and all that kind of stuff. I'm always amazed at just how many wrestlers they're sticking in the game each year. And then shortly after, they'll release a trailer with all the DLC that's going to come out over the next year. It's like, I want that in the game. Don't charge me like £100 overall for everything
Yeah, but if you
altogether.
say they're giving you enough content to start with,
They
then-
are.
Then it's not too bad.
But
the
I'd like
only
it to be
thing
a
that amazes
surprise.
me, they do the reveal every year, but it doesn't seem to change that much. No? Is there anyone that isn't obvious?
What's that football game you like?
Right, and they update the rosters for that quite a lot. They bring in all the new people. All the new people.
There's quite a lot
and
of
the
new...
difference here is what exactly? So why are you complaining? Shut
The
up your
difference
face.
here
Coleman,
is
read the list.
The difference here is they
Read the
tend
list,
to not
Coleman.
take out
Read the list.
ex-racist
Read.
blonde
Read.
people that they don't want to
Shush.
exist anymore.
I can't
Shush.
talk when Tim's talking because I can't cut him out.
Don't tell him that.
Okay,
I have the
so
power.
Okay, so in this year's WWE 2K18, the final list includes JBL Tatanka, Typhoon, Tatsumi Fujinami, Rob Van Dam, Booker T, Batista, Trish Stratus, Psycho Sid, Jake the Snake Roberts, Christian, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Aiden English, Gold Dust, Big E Langston, Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, Sting, Shawn Michaels, Titus O'Neil, Enzo Amore, The Brian Kendrick, Shane McMahon, Alicia Fox, Stephanie McMahon, Ultimate Warrior, Charlotte Flair, Curtis Axel, Bo Dallas, Cassius Ono, Darren Young, Rich Swan, Grand Metalik, Noam Dar, Jack Gallagher, No Way Jose, Primo Colon, Epco Colon, Tyson Kidd, Billy Kay, Peyton Royce, Rhino, Kurt Hawkins, Heath Slater, R-Truth, Tyler Breeze, and Fandango.
I have a question, Mr. Coleman. You may not be able to answer this until a later date.
Okay.
How coked up is their version of Ultimate Warrior? Or how drugged up in general?
Dead.
Dude, have some respect,
some dignity.
man.
Well, no, it just depends what era they're choosing him from, that's all.
I believe he was more steroid bound than coke.
Yeah, I meant more, drugs in general rather than coke. But hey.
He had his demons. Demons. And also said some really nasty things. But anyway, that's your lot. And there's a lot of because you say that a lot of the people on the roster are the same, and usually they are, but they'll take like the DLC characters from one year and add them to the next year as the main game. But also they've got the NXT division, so you've got Raw, SmackDown as your two main shows, then NXT is your training show. Mm-hmm. Well, that's where they bring in all their indie wrestlers and people that they're training in-house to one day go up to the main roster. Okay. And that seems to be where they're getting most of their new wrestlers to stick in there, like Cassius Ono and Jack Gallagher, who is a brilliant UK wrestler. I've seen him several times. You'd love him. I'll have to send you some videos of Jack Gallagher in action, because I think you two would actually like just how British this man is. Like,
so no relation to Nolan Liam then?
No, not Gallagher.
Oh, okay.
Like he has a crest on his trunks. He's got a little ginger moustache that's twirled up. He comes to the ring with an umbrella. He came into the Royal Rumble, climbed up to the top rope, and then jumped with his umbrella up like he was Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins.
It was very good. But yes, those are the wrestlers this year. That's your lot now, I think.
And just one slightly more serious question that you could probably answer reasonably quickly, but what's your biggest surprise from what they've revealed so far in terms of who was actually on there?
Probably Jack Gallagher, in fact, because his wrestling style is very different to a lot of the current roster members. Mm-hmm. And them trying to get all these cruiserweight indie darlings that have been brought over to the WWE. A lot of them in general have very different techniques that you've not seen in games before. So it's going to be very interesting.
Ooh.
I've just looked Gentleman Jack Gallagher up. I didn't know Ed Sheeran was a professional wrestler.
He's neater than Ed Sheeran. And he doesn't appear in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, less Game of Thrones appearances.
Yeah. And he's an exceptionally ginger man.
He is, but he's a very nice man, and he wears a suit to the ring, and all that kind of stuff. He's very
just
British.
As long as he's not letting the side down.
He's Dan the wrestler.
Wow.
They put him in a promo against a Geordie guy called Neville, and he was brilliant. He's like, "We're not tea drinking posh Nancy's. We're hard. We got rough edges." It was a very good promo of the two, like just Geordie bloke versus posh London bloke.
Fair enough.
On American TV.
Nice.
Oh, the wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh, the wrestling.
Hey guys, just taking a small break so we can give you a couple more codes from these Rockstar Energy Destiny 2 cans. Get ready. The first code is 5P3C P7P9 K4PM. And the second code is WR7C P7KL K2N2. And once again, make sure that you go over to destiny2.rockstarenergy.com so you can redeem those codes if you are lucky enough to grab those in time. Now let's go back to Dan.
So, the bit that Tim and Coleman have been keeping me from is finally here. It's that one time...
Oh, do we have to, Dan?
Yeah, we do, because you've been playing it, Tim, and I quote from before we pressed the big record button, I'm quite enjoying it.
No, I didn't say quite. I said I was enjoying it.
I'll quote from before we start recording, "Where are my trousers?" It's very cold in here.
But no,
doesn't usually look like that.
Yeah.
No, so before Tim interrupts me, before I can actually introduce what the heck this is, of course, it is Destiny 2. It finally released, And there's a lot to go through, and I'm not sure we've got time to go through it all on the show here today.
Oh, phew.
Because I haven't had a chance to play through all of it, because there's so damn much of it this time. So, long story short, I'll assume everything that's in the beta is public knowledge and means that you're not going to get spoiled on it. The new big bad this time, rather than an amorphous blob of tar, is a Cabal kind of general, as it were, called Gaul or Gary or Glenn or whatever you want to call him.
Yeah, he's the antagonist from Star Wars Old Republic, but on steroids.
Yeah, pretty much. Also with a little soupçon of Bane thrown in just for reasons.
Yeah. me and Ollie were playing and had some fun with that.
Yeah, exactly.
You think the light is your ally. I was born in the light.
That's Bane cross Alan Rickman I just did there.
Can I just mention something about him as well before you go
Yes.
on? Because Ollie pointed this out to me and I can't get it out of my head now. There's the point where it's like, what do you want? I want the light. He's like, he wants to be the traveller. That's why he's dressed in white. He's his cosplay. He's cosplaying as the traveller.
So that's what. So he's eaten nothing but Oreos and deep fried chicken for a year and a half to make him into the biggest, roundest white thing that ever exists.
I can't get that out of my head now. He said it.
I just want to be a fat.
I want to be the traveller. Bill Nye will speak on my behalf.
So anyway, long short of it is big bad called Gaul, big old space turtle who wants to be the traveller. Nicks your light, blows up the city, and that's where the beta ends, basically. And you have been cast off the edge of the tower, quite literally, with all of your powers taken away. So you are just a normal human being.
What?
You're a civvy. Yes.
He should have killed you. I'm just saying, it would have been a good
you were wearing
idea.
a really big helmet, and you managed to survive the fall. So there's even a hidden message about road safety in here, ladies and gentlemen. That's how good a game it is.
I got weirded out when my powers got taken away. I didn't play any of the beta, so I kept everything afresh for when I started playing.
Likewise.
But when you have no powers, and I went to do my melee attack, and I threw a right
and
hook.
just gave them a very effete little slap.
No. He does
you!
They've animated a punch into the character that wasn't there before, and I was like, oh, I'm throwing haymakers now. This is great.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a bit that I've played through the campaign. I've completed the single player campaign.
Of course you have.
Why
Of course
does that
I have.
not surprise me?
How many sick days was that?
Well, okay. So the single player
Work's still
campaign.
calling.
So what?
Work's calling. Dan, come to
No,
work.
I've actually taken leave.
Oh, okay.
It's not like, yeah, I'm totally working. Blah, 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 blah.
Working, that's what I'm doing. Don't look,
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
look.
I'm saving the universe, what are you doing? That's what I thought, thank you very much.
It's not a PlayStation, it's medical apparatus.
Yeah, exactly. So, yes, I have played through the single-player campaign as written, okay? Now, It took me... The single-player campaign took me, I would say, about 5.5, 6 hours.
Okay.
Okay.
And I reached level 20 in 7 hours, which is the level cap. Now, before, you'll go, oh my god, they've done the same thing again, there's no game here.
No.
Really, do you remember the Taken King?
I do.
Coleman, how it was like the campaign was just essentially like the first act.
Yeah, but what an act.
Yes. what an act. And it's pretty much the same with this. Where the campaign kind of gets you up to speed, kind of familiarises you with the world. You have the big fights with all the big bads and stuff like that. I'm not going to spoil any details. It goes some really interesting places about if you are essentially, it's a bit kind of almost a bit like, kind of Watchmen in some ways. If you're a superhero, what does that do to you? In the same kind of way that with kind of Guardians, it's like you're a Guardian, you think you're brilliant. Without the light, you're just a normal person. You're a bit of a dick. Yeah. Is one of the undercurrents in it with one of the characters, which is really kind of refreshing take on things. But it kind of, once you get through the campaign, the open world really starts to, all the events start to pop up. And like on each planet, I just spent, 4 hours today just doing all the adventures on Earth, and I haven't even finished them all yet. And quests have started popping up that I'm underpowered for at the moment, and I think there's going to be a similar the similar amount of legs on it at the very least that Taken King had.
Yeah, because I was going to say, when you said that you'd only, the campaign was only 5-6 hours, I'm like, hang on a second, because it feels like I've only just started scratching the surface of the story. I've basically just got to Titan.
Oh, okay.
And I've spent about 4 hours in it, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think I probably got a bit less distracted than you, Tim.
I like this world where Tim's played more Destiny than me.
I mean, because I knew there was impending podcast to talk about it on, I did kind of mainline the story, so I didn't do much in the way of ancillary activities, but each planet very much has its own story and backstory, and it really kind of digs into the underlying motivations of all the various races and the characters. There's a guy in the European Dead Zone who was Nick My Voice.
I do not like him.
Yes.
He seemed like a COD character thrown into this game.
Yeah, he did seem a little out of place, I guess.
No, I thought it was Sir Hammerlock. I was like, if you get me to open that bloody gate, frozen gate, at the front of this bloody settlement, again, Hammerlock,
It was
I
the
will
point.
end you.
It was the point where it's just like, come see me and I'll put the kettle on and we'll have a lovely cup of tea. And then you get to him, he's like, oops, I drank all the tea, silly me. And then a little bit later, someone's like, oh, make sure he doesn't put his teacup on the console. He might spill tea on it. It's like, shut up, Americans.
Yeah, no, well, it gets worse.
Don't even drink tea.
But there's something, right. That was a bit hammy, as you say, and I wasn't necessarily well written or acted, but anyway, it's kind of fun. But there was one thing I really liked about a kind of the element of that and that first level that you come to on Earth, basically. It felt like an inhabited world beyond just you and the other Guardians running around willy-nilly.
Yep.
It felt like there was an absolute presence there. Also, I actually really like that level for the fact that, unlike some of the levels in the first game, it seemed like a ruined Earth type thing. You know what I mean? It didn't seem like could have been any bloody planet anywhere kind of thing.
And I think one of the biggest criticisms of the original Destiny is that they made a wonderful sandbox to play in, but they didn't actually populate it with meaningful characters. It was like kind of, I'm just shooting a slightly different shaped alien, certainly up until Taken King, I would argue. And this, that actually, it's like, okay, there's an identifiable bad guy. I know why he wants to do this. Oh, look what's happened to all these people. Oh, here's another race that's taking advantage of the situation, trying to absolutely dick over humanity. And I think it's, everything feels like it's got a motivation, has a purpose, which I think previous Destiny titles, didn't, frankly. The sole exception would be The Taken King, which was directed by the same guy who has been in charge of Destiny 2, and I think that shows. There's a lot of retooling of kind of like the weekly activities and kind of the rituals that you go through. So every day you get a new set of challenges, one for every planet. There's adventures, which are little self-contained story, although linked to one another, story missions on each planet. There's about 10, 15 of those. There's patrols, there's strikes, there's all kinds of stuff. And it is absolutely jam-packed with content, or so it feels at the moment. Whether or not that still feels the case in a month's time, I don't know. But at the moment, it looks and feels like they've actually finally made the game Destiny should have been.
Yeah, and a lot of the content does seem not massively different from what was in the previous game, but just better thought out and better thought through type thing. Like the adventures you were saying there, like they weren't that dissimilar to I can't remember what they called them in the previous game, but where you walked up to the kind of
patrols.
Was it patrols? They were the stick things with the flashing light on the top of them, basically. Yeah. And like it's essentially exactly the same thing. It's just they've called it an adventure and it's slightly differently set up, no?
Early on in the game, perhaps, but certainly once you reach the end game, they get quite involved and have like almost mini raid or strike mechanics in them where you've got to interact with the environment in a certain way or kind of go through a certain series of tasks and prepare, like do a setup for essentially a kind of a strike or a big hit on the enemy. And it all makes sense. And I think that's the thing that, I think at its core, the reason why I kept playing Destiny is that the underlying gunplay and the way the game's constructed felt great. It didn't have a story. And it had no real, you had no real agency, but in Destiny 2, I think you do. And the one thing I heard, although obviously I can't confirm this, but apparently the lines of dialogue in the campaign and in the early bits on each planet are different depending on whether or not because it checks your Destiny 1 history. So obviously with me, I've done just about everything. The lines of dialogue I get apparently assume a certain amount of knowledge, whereas the lines of dialogue you might get, Tim, if you haven't done the raid, didn't get the expansions, it will actually talk you through what all the various races and characters are, which I think is a really smart move.
I was going to criticise it for not doing that, really, because there's some things where I just find that they just assume you know who the Cabal is and stuff like that, and I'm like...
Space Turtles.
Who are they? Yeah. What do they do?
Tim was playing the intro and he's like, hey, those dudes look like Fifth Element. And then I mentioned something about them being in the previous game. Like, they're the previous game?
Yeah, I had no idea.
Oh, they're pre-established. Okay.
Okay, right. That's why they're not telling me anything about these people. But generally speaking, I thought that at least the original, the first Earth level that you're playing through, it feels like it's not wasting your time with fetch quests going back and forth through the same areas as much. It seems better thought out. It seems better strung together. Like, I don't know about you, but one of the things that I found a bit off-putting about one of the early levels you went into, that every secret area you found seemed to be massively higher level than you were when you first arrived in that first area.
That's by design, presumably to funnel you down a certain path.
Yeah, but then I just found it meant that you were like, oh, so I can't do this bit now, and that kind of that's kind of, it ruins me finding a secret area type thing. Whereas I've already, I don't know if that's the case in the wider game, that's why I'm asking it more than telling it, but it does seem that from the early level that seems to be better thought out, and you've got what do they call the secret areas in this? The secret something?
Lost sectors.
Lost sectors, that's it. And yeah, I've wandered into a few of them and had, like fights that weren't necessarily easy, but were not like massively over my original starting level type thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does a much better job of scaling difficulty than original Destiny did, and actually it doesn't surface enemy level numbers anymore, which I think is a pretty smart move.
But you can still see how much damage you're doing to an opponent and stuff like that, basically.
Exactly. And, I've still got a lot to go through. I've only really made a serious dent in the adventures on Earth. And I'm going to, before next week, try and put a bit more time into, the multiplayer.
I've played a lot of Crucible.
Well, see, I haven't done any of that yet, and I
haven't done any Crucible yet.
But that's why I think I spent quite a bit of time in the first area, because I was like, oh well, there's this lost sector thing. I found that. Let's go explore that for a bit, type thing.
And the world does continue feeling expansive and big, and that there's lots of nooks and crannies.
Good that continues.
Yeah, and not in the contrived way that they tried to shoehorn it into the original Destiny. And, the areas are massive.
Yeah, and what I'm liking so far is that the second level, the first bit of Titan that you go to, without spoiling it for anyone, like, it looks very different to where you've just been. It looks... And it could be somewhere else on a future Earth, possibly, but it looks like a more alien environment type of, it looks like a very different place to where you just were. There's a bit too much platforming for my liking in that section. But, like, generally speaking, yeah, like, it's created a really good first impression. I will just... Yeah, go on.
But all I was going to say is, by next week, I would have had a chance to sample just about everything the game has to offer, since the raid goes live just under a week from now.
Okay.
I'm not promising I'm going to be able to beat the raid on behalf of BigRedBarel, but I certainly will have got to dip my toe in the water at the very least, and hopefully had a chance to play through a bit more of the story-based stuff, because I don't think I'm anywhere near the end of that at the moment.
Come on, Dan. Let me get buffed. Let me get buffed in time for this. We're going to do this, Dan.
We need to get up to level 20.
You need your star player on the raid.
I will.
All right.
I will.
Okay.
Just having generally had quite a positive experience with it so far, and it having corrected a lot of the problems that I had with the previous game, there are still some like caveats of annoyance, basically, that if anyone's on the fence about picking this up and was in a similar position to me where they didn't like it, I'm still worried about the overarching kind of business model to this game. I think in 3 months' time they're going to be selling me another £20 to £30 piece of content that I possibly won't be able to play the game without, basically.
Well, that's actually the thin end of the wedge on this one, Tim, and that was the one thing I was going to come on to. They've really monetized character customization. Really, really monetized it. Before, I mean, so the way they sold it was, so in the previous game there was shaders, so you could kind of essentially put a lick of paint on your Guardian to make them look a bit different, even if they wore the same armor as someone else. This, you can apply shaders to individual bits of armor, your guns, your ship. So you think, oh wow, that's great, but shaders are now a single-use item.
Ooh.
And if you want to put a shader on all bits of your Guardian, that's 5 shaders you use.
Oh, so it's 5 times the price, basically.
You cannot reuse them, and you can get them from other sources, but a very quick and easy way to get them is through paying real money.
Yeah, and I noticed everything that got destroyed in the tower. Thankfully, the microtransaction lady survived, so that's okay.
Yes, she did. So that's all okay. Bobby Kotick can sleep easy. But I think what we need to do, I think there's, I've still got a lot more of this to play through. I'd be interested, if you get through the campaign, I'll be interested to hear your thoughts about it, Tim, and Coleman as well. And Coleman's going to join me on the raid. He's just committed himself to that.
Yeah.
But I think there's, I've played a fair chunk of it, but I still think there's more to come, so I'll talk about it more next week. And I'm very aware that Coleman has to disappear very shortly.
Yes. Just one other thing, though. There's one annoyance that hasn't changed since the previous game that still annoys me now and makes the game less suitable for my life. The lack of the ability to pause still bothers me. Like, when I'm just playing it single
online game!
I know, but then don't say, oh, it's an online-only game. But, okay, fine.
Well,
Then give me the ability to not do that. If that is harming my ability to play the game, give me the ability to play it offline.
You just need to go toilet beforehand, Tim. All right?
Bungie already thought of this, Tim. It's called Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3.
Okay, so Tim?
Yes.
Remind us Tuesday is Tuesday.
Tuesday is a Tuesday, and this Tuesday, for anyone that doesn't know, every Tuesday, in fact, we have Tabletop Tuesday. And we have a different feature game every week, different board or card game, and if you come along and play that game that evening, you have a chance of winning a copy of that game by the end of that there evening. Extra special this week, this Tuesday, the 12th of September, we are having O Captain as our feature game, so that will be there to play. Looks like a not quite full party game, but almost kind of party type game, and yeah, looks silly and fun. But we also, courtesy of Rockstar, have some lovely Rockstar goodies to give away. You might have heard some codes throughout this episode. We will have some cans with codes on them, hopefully, but we will also have some other physical bits and bobs.
Hey, but I don't want to drink a Scottish game studio. What are you talking about, man?
Of Rockstar. It's not Rockstar, the video game company. I did have to point it out at Tabletop Tuesday.
What if I want to sup from the furry cup of a Scotsman?
No, that's not a good thing to do. That's probably the alcohol content, and that alone may kill you, Dan. But yeah, generally, anyone doesn't know, Rockstar have got a deal going with some Destiny 2 codes on their cans at the moment as well. And yeah, we'll have a few of those to give away, as well as a few other physical prizes, t-shirts, and the such. Courtesy of Rockstar. And I believe we'll have some codes going out this episode and some codes for the next couple of weeks as well. So,
okay. So, there we go. So that's Tuesday, and we're going to have to disappear very quickly. But before we do, we just want to say thank you to a couple of people, and in the interest of speed, I'm going to do all of these. So, from the forums, it's Stingo who wants to know what happened to the Rise Let's Play idea. We will do it. There's something called Extra Life coming up. Red Cully's hat.
Like all good intended ideas, life gets in the way. So
yes,
put it on the back burner, but we'll come back to that.
Finds a way to get in the way.
Yeah. Red Cully's hat, the Cube, Stealthy Joe, who wants to know if any of us managed to order a SNES Mini. Let's do a quick round the table.
Oh, I needed that.
We're not made of eBay money.
No, of course we bloody didn't, you idiot. So from Twitter, just like to say thank you to Mark Brown, Nelly, Richard Kirk, Spencer H, Gabriel Romo, Sadwizard, and Howling_Wolf85, and last but not least from Facebook, there's Mark Fawcett and Mark Gardner. So thank you to Marks from Facebook. Facebook Marks. So that's your lot. That's the show. We have to go because Coleman needs to go and make some money. So I've been Dan.
I might have been Tim that actually played Destiny this week.
I've been Coleman. I'm super late. Bye.
Yeah, bye. Until next time, dear listeners, thank you ever so much for listening. Go to internet.slash.web/BigRedBarel and find stuff.
/web.
So until next time, dear listeners, thank you for listening, and toodle bye.
And your ears are quite welcome for the podcasting goodness that you just heard. Why not roll on over to BigRedBarel.com for more podcasts, news, reviews, and videos from the biggest, reddest site on the internet, BigRedBarel.com.
Thank you guys for listening to the show once again, but don't forget we got more codes for you to go get some Destiny 2 goodies, courtesy of Rockstar Energy. So, here's your first code, 832C5WRR6T96. And your second code is 6R8K3C3F2L6P. So once more, to redeem those codes, make sure you head on over to destiny2.rockstarenergy.com, enter the code, enter your details. You'll get some cool stuff for you to use in-game, like weapons and gear, and also those codes will enter you into a prize draw where you can win copies of Destiny 2, Destiny 2 themed motorcycles, PlayStation 4 Pro systems, and other cool things such as that. And don't forget, if you weren't fortunate enough to get a code this time round, have no fear. You can always wait till the next show. We'll have more codes for Destiny 2 goodies from Rockstar Energy. And you can always go and pick up a cam for yourself, and they'll have these awesome codes on their ring pulls. So until next time, bye-bye.